Buongiorno a tutti, allora sono Roberto Pozzoli di Omnicon e oggi abbiamo l'occasione di incontrare due nostri partner olandesi, in particolare Peter Wijngaarden, che ci tiene a dire che in italiano è giardino del vino, quindi ci tenevo a condividere questa cosa. Richard Clark di Montreal, Luca Pisarra, mio collega di Omnicon, e l'obiettivo del racconto, uso il termine racconto di oggi, è quello della floating farm. La floating farm ideata da Peter, poi ci spiegherà perché, che cos'è e quali sono state le ragioni che hanno portato a questa idea. Pensiamo siano molto interessanti e coerenti sia con l'evento e soprattutto, aggiungo, un po' anche con gli obiettivi e i valori del gruppo SGR, perché si parla seriamente di sostenibilità e in maniera concreta di un sistema di economia circolare che, come vi spiegherà poi Peter, è legato a tutti gli aspetti della sostenibilità, quindi gli aspetti economici, gli aspetti sociali e gli aspetti ambientali. Aggiungo solo una cosa prima di lasciare la parola a Peter, che il suo racconto sarà in inglese. Abbiamo deciso di non interromperlo sistematicamente per tradurre, perché sarebbe un peccato. In ogni caso avremo immagini, racconti, le slide in italiano, e poi in ogni momento molto volentieri mi occuperò io di tradurre. So, Peter, up to you. Yes. So, thanks. Poi, scusate, ci tengo anche a ringraziarlo molto, perché Peter e Richard settimana scorsa in Giordania fa conferenze su questo tema, sulla sostenibilità, sulla floating farm in tutto il mondo, e ci diceva ieri thanks a lot for coming from all of us.
Thank you so much, Roberto, for your fantastic introduction, I think. Grazie mille. This is all my Italian, so I have to do it in English. Thank you so much. Buongiorno. So my name is Peter, and if I go to some slides... My name is Peter, and I want to talk about healthy food in a climate-changing world. As we all know, healthy food is a life essential for consumers. We cannot live without healthy food. We need it every day. But the current system of food production is really worldwide a mess. It's a mess. About 30%, 30%, of all food produced in the world is lost. So we're losing food, we're losing energy, we're losing water, we're losing nutrients, a lot of transportation by planes and ships and trucks, so we're polluting as well. But 30% of all food produced is lost, while still 1 billion people doesn't have food every day. So it's a mess. So we need to think about different models, radical different models to produce food close to the consumers. It's what Steve Jobs learned us many years ago. Think different. And this is what we have been doing. And I want to take you to two examples in history where we could have think different, but we decided otherwise. This is 1900. At that time, only 100 years ago, at that time, the electric car was the #1 car in the world. Thomas Edison, Henry Ford were working on this electric car, and they strongly believed, Thomas Edison believed, this is the car of the future. But Henry Ford decided otherwise. He said, no, I go for a cheaper car. It's called a fossil-fueled car. He chose for economy, not for the long-term society or a better world, no, for economy. And now we see the result. Can you imagine what would happen to the world today if the electric car would have won 100 years ago? So decisions does matter on a long term. At that time, in 1900, there were only 1.6 billion people. 1.6. Another example is about cities. I go back 200 years ago. 200 years ago, the many large cities like Paris and London and Milan were a combination of people, plants, and animals. So inside the city, people produced their food, their vegetables. We lived, we worked, we had vegetables, we had a cow, we had a goat. Everything was completely self-sufficient inside the city because there was harmony between the people, plants, and animals. At that time, there were only 1 billion people. But we also saw that the world was growing with the human population, more and more people, and everybody wanted to live inside cities. And then cities changed. So this little vegetable production went outside the city and was changed into concrete and flats and apartments. And everything was going further and further away outside the city. Why was that? Because this was the most important element to design anything. Cars, cities, economy of scale. And this was the result today. This is what we created together. These cities are just concrete jungles of today. If you live inside the city, you have no clue about organic, about nature, about food production. We siloed everything far away. So far away we produce food, far away we produce clean water, far away we do electricity, far away we do garbage treatment. Everything is far away. And inside the city, we can do everything we like. We don't know and we don't see.
Peter, sorry. Maybe I try to help. I know that. Scusa. I translate for
Sure,
one second.
sure.
No, so che non è necessario, però aggiungo solo due cose di quelle che hai detto.
Again?
No, absolutely not. No, le cose importanti che ha detto Peter, come avete capito molto meglio di me, sono l'inizio quando ha parlato dell'auto elettrica, quindi e ha detto che la scelta che è stata fatta in quel momento nel 14 in realtà ha preso un orientamento in base all'economia e non alla sostenibilità o all'ambiente o agli aspetti sociali, e quindi ha citato Steve Jobs dicendo che le scelte di oggi contano per domani, e questo è un aspetto fondamentale. E poi ha fatto un bellissimo esempio di verità, io non avevo ancora visto la slide di prima, facendo notare che quando eravamo 1 milione di persone, le piccole città, i villaggi, in realtà funzionavano con l'economia circolare e non accadeva quello che accade oggi, dove il 30% del cibo prodotto viene sprecato. Produrre cibo comporta utilizzare risorse idriche, poi vi parlerà di cosa accade al terreno, eccetera, e soprattutto il 30% viene trasportato. I'm anticipating about the transportation. So, è solo per dire così, per chiarire anticipare questo, e questo purtroppo è dove siamo arrivati, quindi completamente staccati dall'aspetto della natura, dagli aspetti biologici, e tutto ciò che deve arrivare nella nostra giungla in realtà deve essere trasportato, deve essere prodotto lontano e trasportato. Sorry, Peter.
No worries. No, it's okay. And now today we all realize that we look at the exhibition over here. We want to go back to green. We want to go back to biodiversity. And to create biodiversity in cities, we need everybody, people, plants, and animals. We need bees back in the city. We need butterflies back in the city. This is biodiversity at large. Okay, so to create this biodiversity back in the city, in our belief, it's really important to have a farm back in the city. So many cities around the world are now looking in transforming into green, and they forget an essential element. A farm is a center of biodiversity. So if you want to create really biodiversity in the city, put a farm inside, and that's what we call transformation. Transformation of cities. You say when I need to stop, okay?
Ok, credo che quello di cui stava parlando adesso Peter sia chiaro, quindi parlando di biodiversità eccetera, bellissimo transformation, quindi fattoria, quello che sostiene Peter è che per portare la biodiversità nelle città bisogna portare le fattorie nelle città, che sono un perfetto esempio di biodiversità e sostenibilità proprio per questo processo circolare, per questo sistema circolare.
Okay, thank you. So,
No, thanks to you.
many people ask me, how did you come up with the idea to build a farm on the water? You must be crazy, and maybe I am a little bit, but I want to explain to you how it started. So I was working in New York City about 12 years ago, and we were asked to design floating housing project on the Hudson River across Manhattan. I did not want to do floating housing because it's not that special. We have many floating houses in our country. But in New York and Manhattan, I thought, wow, that's prestigious. So let's do it in New York. And when I was there, Hurricane Sandy, the biggest storm in history of the America, hit New York. And Hurricane Sandy hit New York big time. Really big time. The water was flooding in the city about 2 meters high. Subway stations, everything was completely flooded. And one of the effects of a hurricane that hits a city and floods the city was that all stores were empty. Why? Because we're completely depending on transportation of healthy food. There was no transportation possible, all stores were empty. I saw people fighting for bread. Whether you are a billionaire in New York City or you live in the street, we have to eat every day. But there was no food because every city has only for 2 days food. For 2 days only. So we're depending on transportation completely. So then I was working on this one, and then I thought, no, even more important than this is to produce food in the city, no matter how high sea level rises or it floods, we make it floating. So that's when we started to build a floating farm in our own city, the Netherlands, Rotterdam. Here you see the farm. So this is in the port of Rotterdam. We are connected to the sea. And it's completely floating. It's a 3-layer building. So one part is below the waterline. We utilize the entire building. On top are cows, 40 cows. We process the milk and the manure over here. And below the waterline, we are producing vegetables and we're ripening cheese. So we're using every part of the building. We have energy from our solar panels. We collect rainwater. And maybe I can start a little film so you can see also inside what is happening.
Yeah. Prima, se posso, io farei un applauso a...
Am I finished?
Perché avete capito quali sono stati gli stimoli, il 40% del cibo è trasportato, una città ha autonomia di 2 giorni per quanto riguarda il cibo, che si abiti all'ultimo piano di un attico a Manhattan oppure bisogna mangiare, quindi lo stimolo è partito da quello, e quello che avete visto, che adesso di cui spiegherà ancora Peter, è il sistema per cui all'interno del porto di Rotterdam c'è un sistema circolare che si autosostiene assolutamente. Scusate, ho dimenticato di dire una cosa prima quando parla di cibo salutare. Questo è una delle prime cose che ha sempre citato Peter. Questo sistema è sostenibile proprio per gli aspetti che dicevo prima, quindi sia in termini ambientali, economici e sociali. Quindi, sorry.
So we are also part of the circularity of a city. So all the feed for our animals comes from the city. We're producing so much waste as part of the 30% food losses, so much waste that we throw away every day. So here you see some examples. So we work with the beer brewery. The leftover of the beer brewery is very high quality food for our animals. But also we work with the food bank. In our country, and your country is doing much better than the Netherlands, by the way. But our country, we are importing a lot of broccoli from Africa, beans from Africa. And in the Netherlands, it's being burned. It's a leftover. Every day we are burning vitamins, fibers, protein. We just burn it. But now we collect it, we give it to our cows, they turn it into protein that goes back to the city again. So this is the circularity of the city. We do this with all kind of food. We do this with bread. We do it with orange peels. In our country, we have the best football team of our country. It's called Feyenoord. They were in Rome yesterday, by the way. Sorry. I don't know. Okay. We get the grass from the main pitch and the golf courses. So we upgrade all kind of organic material that is actually waste. Here you see how we constructed the building. So it consists of 3 concrete barges that we built in a ship dock, and we bring it to our city in the port of Rotterdam. We started to build the superstructure in the port, and in April 2009 the building was completely finished. April 2009. So in the summer of 2019 we started to produce our yogurt, our cheeses, our butter, and we started to sell. And during that time, we were visited from all over the world, about 70 groups per month from Japan to the US, ministers, architects, city designers, because many cities look for solutions for food production. This was May 2019, and then COVID came up in 2020. So everything had to shut down. So there were 2 difficult years, but now since 1 year, we are back again and being visited by many people from the world, and we are traveling again, like being here in Rimini. In May 2019, for us, a very essential moment, because at that moment, our first cows came in. As you can see, there's a bridge, so they can walk and decide themselves. We have a free-range cow. They can be either outside or inside. But I just explained to a journalist earlier, a cow prefers to lay down about 14 hours a day. So a good bed is the most important element for a cow. And the second important element for a cow is healthy and fresh food and water, 6 hours a day. So animal welfare is one of the biggest design we had for this farm. And we collaborate with the University of Wageningen, and we collaborate with the University of Delft on this one. So, as I was saying, it's a 3-layer building. So on top we have the animals. In the middle we are processing the milk into all kind of dairy products. And below the waterline we are producing vegetables. We are using the coolness of the temperature of the water to cool down our processes. So it's really energy efficient to use the cool temperature of the water. And the leftover of the vegetables obviously goes back to the cows. And the nutrients of the cows obviously we use as fertilizer for the vegetables. So there's a huge circularity inside the building as well. We also produce our fresh basil cheese. So we're making cheese, we're making basil, and we have a fresh basil cheese, for instance. I need to look at the time, right? No? Okay. So here you see some of the products we produce locally. Everything stays inside the city. So the feedstock comes from the city and all the food goes back to the city. It's completely circular. There's no footprint of this farm anywhere. So we're having dairy products and we're having vegetables. Maybe a little bit into technology. So you see here our farm. We have our floating solar panels. It's running for 4 years already. We have a floating windmill. It's not in this picture, but we are producing wind energy, completely floating as well. And our main goal is to produce dairy and vegetables. I think it's the other way around. Yeah, this is vegetables, right? Yeah, vegetables and dairy. The input for this farm comes from the city. So it's waste streams, energy we make ourselves, and water we get from the rain and from the river. So this is salt water because we're connected to the North Sea. So we desalinate the water as well to have fresh water. And that makes, besides the main products, very interesting what we call byproducts. Very important byproducts. So this is urine. We turn the urine, 95% of urine is water. So we turn the urine into water again. That goes back to the river. Okay. The 5% sludge is nitrogen. Very, very good fertilizer for the land and for our plants again. The manure, that is really interesting, the raw matter. We use the manure to desalinate the salt water. It's our own process. Later I will tell you how it works.
Yeah.
Okay?
We'll speak about that.
After. I will tell you the secret later. So we use the manure to desalinate the salt water. We turn the manure in fertilizer for our vegetables. And soon we will start to produce biomethane together with the University of Wageningen. So it's completely circular, as I already mentioned. And with the big help of Omnicon and your company, and Richard, he will tell later about it, we measure everything of the farm. So the future of farming is also about data. The next generation will not do the same in the farm as their parents. They want to have it automated. Lots of robot technologies and data. Run it by your phone. So this is a very high-tech farm. We measure everything. And Richard will talk a bit more about that later on, after me. Now, to round up, I was telling you about city design and transformation. There are many examples in history that we could learn from. This is the most famous example, 2,500 years ago. This is Babylon. This is the Hanging Gardens. 2,500 years ago, we had fully harmony between people, plants, and animals. So we can do it again. So I asked ChatGTP, can you design me the city of the future? And then they came up with this. This is designed by ChatGTP. So it's all green. There's harmony again between people, plants, and animals. So I love this picture very much. But there was one more design criteria I asked to ChatGTP. Can you also take the climate change into account? And then they came up with this. All floating farms. So I think we are on a good track. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you. No, okay, from my side, nothing to... scusate, non so se... Credo che l'ultima parte soprattutto sia interessante, anche il link tra l'intelligenza artificiale a cui Peter ha chiesto di disegnare la città del futuro, poi gli ha chiesto di tener conto del cambiamento climatico e di fatto il risultato di ChatGPT alla fine è quello che Peter ha pensato tempo fa e che una persona ha pensato tempo fa e che ha realizzato, quindi thanks a lot. Poi noi abbiamo un discorso sui segreti che non mi vuole rivelare su come fa a desalinare desalizzare con la... Scusate, adesso Richard Clark di Montreal, che è il nostro cliente con cui ci siamo conosciuti oramai un paio d'anni fa, e sulla base di alcune cose è nato il progetto e abbiamo imparato reciprocamente tante cose. Ve lo dico subito, parla benissimo italiano, ha vissuto in Italia, però vogliamo usare l'inglese, quindi...
Grazie Roberto. Ciao, sono Richard Clark, cofondator e direttore tecnico di Montreal Solutions. Agenzia offre ai nostri clienti tante soluzioni IoT. Scusami, ma continuare in inglese. Okay. Montreal Solutions. So, as Peter said, we're supporting him with a floating farm. I just want to make it clear that Montreal Solutions is not from Canada. We're from Holland and Amsterdam. But the name actually is an anagram for mobile networks in real estate. And how we started in 2021 was that companies wanted to understand how they could connect all their different locations and assets together and receive all the information in one overview. And we thought, that's something we can do. So that's how we started the company. And what we want to do is help companies support themselves to be more self-sufficient, more energy efficient for the future, and be able to understand how their buildings work. So this is very important for us. But we realized that you can't start a solution with a Rolls-Royce or a Ferrari or solution. So we come up with the concept of 4 steps to sustainability. And the idea here is to support the client by first starting off with a simple system by just connecting their buildings to the internet, to our platform, and then working on that and being able to build up over time with the information they receive. And that starts off with the simple Smart Connect. Then we move on. Once we have the data, then you can start to work with the data, and then you can start to analyze the building and make small little changes to make it more efficient. And I'll come to an example of that in a minute. Then we see that you go on to the next stage, which is more we call Smart Eco. That's where you start to work with your energy that you are generating in your building, or your location. Like Peter is here, he has waste, he needs to recycle that waste. And then as the system becomes more self-learning, more intelligence, more algorithms using our platform, then the building becomes more better for the future. Then the last step is, I think, something Peter said about the idea in the future. You really need to start thinking about how systems can work for themselves. How can you benefit your community? Today we have energy that comes from far off from in a power station, and it's delivered to our home with a lot of wasted energy. Wouldn't it be nice in the future if you could share your surplus energy with your neighbor? But not only that, be able to communicate with the neighbor, trade your energy with the neighbor in your own currency, for example, and not have to rely on the fluctuation of markets. So we see systems in the future being able to be self-evolve and self-manage themselves. And we can only do that if we connect, if we start to collect data. And that's something we're trying to do now. As an example, for a company, we have a system here, which is measuring the air conditioning of a building. And we have in the graph on the left 2 systems. One is the air that's been blasted into the building from outside for your air conditioning. And the other one is the compressor, which is cooling the air. But the systems are not in synchronization. And you have here, shown in the green line, the system is constantly on, 24/7. The client did not know this. The client realized that he was losing power. The moment we started to collect the data and analyze it over time, we could see where the loss was. And this accounted for 40% of the energy for the building in 1 year, 40%, which doesn't seem much, but once it's synchronized, the systems are working well together and they evolve. We synchronized this building start of this year, and the tariff for energy, for electric in Holland went up by 600%. So from a saving of 2022 of only 10,000 euros, which is fine, we're now saving the building 50,000 euros, just because 2 systems were not synchronized. So that's possible when we have a platform. And that platform is what we're using, is based on the Level 4 from Omnicom, which helps us to integrate systems quite effectively.
Technology, sorry. No, aggiungo solo a quello che diceva Ricci, che sostanzialmente Montreal si occupa come avete visto, di un progresso di efficienza, di efficientamento energetico. E aggiungo, come avrete notato, che a un certo punto c'è una grande attenzione all'essere umano, cioè quindi non è l'efficientamento energetico fine a se stesso, ma quello che Ricci chiama comfort relativo a tutti gli aspetti, diciamo, del comfort ambientale e della salute delle persone che si trovano in quei edifici. Poi magari che dopo le domande vi dettagliamo bene a che cosa si riferisce, di alcuni impianti dove interventi di efficientamento, banalizzo, che se fa freddo e spegniamo il riscaldamento è facile risparmiare, ma ciò non è compatibile, non sostenibile invece con l'aspetto sociale.
Grazie. So another thing we see in our country, in Nederland at the moment, in Holland, is and it's over here in Italy as well, when you buy an appliance, you see that's labeling, A to B, C. Shows how efficient a system is. Also now in our country, you have to have this for your office. You have to show what label it is. But unfortunately, the label is not very accurate. It's based on your energy used per year, and how many square meters, quadrat, is in the office. And also there's a small check to see if you have solar panels or windows, etc. It's rubbish. What we have shown is that even if a building has a label A, which is good, in the operational point every month, when we check for monitoring, you can see that on the right here, you can see that that energy label is not the same every month. We think that that's going to be now compulsory as part of the regulation, that companies have to prove that their building is sustainable, that they are trying to reduce emissions. And again, the only way you can do that is by actually monitoring the information from the building constantly. And that's what we think is the only way to help companies and support them with their goals, and especially their goals of sustainability. They want to reduce emissions, they want to be more efficient, and you have to monitor it. So
just to share, questo concetto per cui noi quando abbiamo la classificazione di un edificio, e quindi è un tema che ci interessa per quello che facciamo, il fatto che un edificio sia di classe A non significa che non si stia conducendo come un edificio di classe A. E il monitoring dimostra per esempio che quell'edificio nei vari periodi cambia la sua classificazione, quindi il conoscere come è utilizzato un edificio e poi ne parlarci e poi controllarlo permette che effettivamente quell'edificio rispetti quel tipo di classificazione energetica.
Grazie. So, as I said before, collecting data is really important, and we do that with our platform, an IoT platform, which is supported with the Omnicom Level 4 protocols. This allows us to be agnostic in the sense that we can choose any type of system, any sense or equipment, and connect it to the platform and collect data, which is the most important thing. And then for the client, we can aggregate the data in any form that they wish. For example, in solar systems, wind, etc., or mix that together like we're going to do now, we are doing now for the floating farm from Peter. And then the client has the data input from this information and can start to work on that to make the system more efficient. And that's what we are doing now for the floating farm. We're actually looking at all the different systems. And I will just give you a brief view of what we do there. So the floating farm has a number, or 8 we've identified, sub-processes. And that's from anything from the production of the products, the milk, the cheese, formaggio, latte, to the rubbish, to the transport, and its energy usage. If we look at each process, we can look at how we can monitor and how we can make the system more efficient. That in the end gives Peter at the floating farm an overview of how his farm is working. Is he meeting his criteria to be circular? Is he doing his thing to make sure that the farm is efficient? And we show that here in a simple form of a happy cow. If the cow is happy, and it's very important to Peter for his animal welfare, the cows are happy, then the farm is working well. And that's important, I think, to make sure that clients can see how things are working in one place, one dash. Many companies now have, I was going to talk Dutch there for a minute, have many different types of facilities with many different apps on their telephone. Now, you know yourself how difficult it is to transfer your apps from the old phone to a new phone. Well, can you imagine how it is in a company? So it's important to collect your data into one format. So for Peter, if we zoom in onto one area, we took the dairy products, okay, making of the milk. We then did a survey. We looked into detail of all the different processes. How does the milk arrive from the cow, from the robot? Where does it go into the milk production? How does it make the cheese? How do you make the milk and the yogurt? And we put that into a point where we can see the flow and visualize all the different elements that need to be adjusted. And that's where we will measure. So utilizing the expertise of Omnicom, Roberto and Luca, we work together to identify the correct devices and the correct systems and the correct telemetries. What is it we want to measure? And that together, working together, has been really valuable at this moment. So what's important here is that we can support Peter on the farm by working together. And what I like about working with Omnicom and SGR Group is that, you know, we're all like a family and we work well together. It's very transparent. And you don't get that with some of these bigger companies. they're not so flexible as what we can be. And I think this is something that Peter has definitely taken advantage of. So the platform itself, just briefly, as I said, it's the main platform here with the Level 4 protocol on top of it. The whole platform is based on a sort of open source system, which is nice because that allows the community of users to develop the platform and helps us bring new ideas and products to market very quickly. This is very important. So basically what we're trying to say is you shouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. You can improve the performance of the wheel by working together. And that's something we're doing now. So, final slides. I think it's we'll be very privileged to work together and to find Omnicom. It's helping us enormously with what we do. And I think together we're very proud to be able to work on the floating farm project with Peter to provide him with his ambitions for the future. Thank you.
It's a privilege for us to work with you. Vabbè, thanks a lot Richie. Adesso cedo la parola a Luca e poi ci sono Richie e Peter che sicuramente lasciamo un po' di tempo per fare un po' di domande, che ci sono diversi aspetti curiosi che possiamo approfondire con loro.
Beh, è sicuramente difficile concludere dopo la presentazione di Peter e Richard. Noi poi ci arriviamo. Da sempre abbiamo un motto che non abbiamo inventato noi, ma abbiamo sempre detto: se non misuriamo non è possibile fare efficientamento, non è possibile conoscere quello che succede. E questo è stato il punto di partenza per la scelta poi di Level 4, per aiutare la floating farm nell'identificare i processi e poi poter prendere delle decisioni per fare efficientamento. Prima Peter ha detto che il futuro è una nuova generazione di agricoltori, cioè delle persone che si baseranno su dei dati per poter fare l'allevamento in maniera sostenibile per tutti. E quindi con Level 4 abbiamo cercato di racchiudere in delle dashboard intuitive tutto quello che succede per poter efficientare al meglio il ciclo di cui parlava prima Peter. Quindi delle interfacce molto intuitive e customizzabili abbiamo racchiuso i principali componenti del processo che abbiamo visto. Quindi abbiamo anche ripreso quello che si parlava prima come circolarità, quindi dalla produzione del cibo che viene fatto direttamente sulla fattoria e l'alimentazione per le mucche e ovviamente il riciclo di quello che poi viene prodotto. E questo è stato il punto di forza per cui poi perché è stato scelto Level 4, proprio perché si parlava anche prima di una soluzione flessibile per andare incontro alle esigenze di un monitoraggio continuo. Quindi abbiamo semplicemente voluto presentarvi qualche esempio, poi nello stand dietro ci sono le interfacce, il live di quello che succede sulla Fattoria Galleggiante, quindi ci possono essere poi tutte le analisi sull'umidità, le temperature, quello che succede a livello di parametri ambientali. E uno dei parametri, parlavamo prima con Richard, importante era proprio quello di monitorare anche cosa succede sull'ammonia, che per loro è molto importante da tenere sotto controllo per evitare che poi possa disperdersi in ambiente, per cui si parlava prima che loro hanno un sistema di monitoraggio dell'ammoniaca per il monitoraggio appunto per evitare che venga rilasciata in ambiente. Loro velocemente comunque puliscono insomma la produzione che arriva dalle mucche di urina e letame, proprio per evitare che si possa rilasciare ammoniaca, e quindi la tengono sotto controllo. E quindi il Level 4 permette anche di veramente capire quello che sta succedendo per evitare di avere dei problemi. Niente, quindi era per dare un overview di quello che poi abbiamo fatto operativamente a livello di interfacce per supportare Peter e i processi della floating farm come unici, diciamo, al mondo in questo momento.
Se ci sono delle domande approfittiamo della presenza di Peter così per rispondere, aggiungendo una cosa semplice: il fatto che tutto ciò che quindi è prodotto sulla floating farm non incide in alcun modo su quel 40% di trasporto su gomma ed energia a cui faceva riferimento prima Peter. Se c'è qualche domanda.
curiosità.
You were so clear that is not needed any. No, comunque noi siamo qua, quindi volentieri. Grazie davvero. Grazie a tutti.
Grazie.